One of the hardest things for me is understanding why we don't have more people seeking and reaching out for mental health services. I know that there's a lot behind that, but I kind of just want to talk about that today and just kind of see where we're at and how we can change that. We talked a little bit about the stigma behind, mental health, but let's talk about how that breaks down because maybe you fall in this category and don't even know. We're going to do a little bit of a couple series about some things with mental health. So just stick with me, and I think it's going to be very informative here. Okay. Well, first of all, the first thing that I want to talk about is that age, okay, has a lot to do with if people are reaching and seeking out for mental health services. If you look at people that are 50, 60, 70, older generations, and some 40, 30, I mean, it all just, some generations just don't have that knowledge that they're going through something that could be something that could, a little bit of help could help with. I'm going to give you the best example I can is that you know, when I first met William, he really was dead set that therapy or therapist was crap. Like literally was not, he was just like, okay, so you're a therapist. I don't know why. That's kind of out there. Who needs that, right? But over the years, since talking to me and, living with me and we learn and we discuss, that has evolved to wow, I can see why we need mental health professionals more and more every day. Because, he grew up at a time where they didn't talk about what was happening. Um, don't cry. Why are you crying? I'll give you something to cry about. Don't share your feelings. Who cares if you're mad? You're the kid. There was so many environmental factors to that that mental health was not regularly discussed. So therefore, as we got older, that belief that mental health was a concern continued, because we resolve things on our own is what we think. Um I know that just the difference, okay? So I'm 44, William's 51. In just that short period of time, I can tell you that there's a big shift in what I grew up with and what he grew up with. And thankfully, I grew up with a mother that really focused on mental health and went through some trials and tribulations herself and knew that she wanted something different for me. And we discussed mental health topics. How are you? How are you feeling? Do you need to talk about anything? There was open line of communication. And then she had the tools to get me where I needed if she was not able to assist me. Well, in her generation, okay, because again, she's my mother, so she's older, that didn't happen. She wasn't asked if she was okay or if she needed to talk about somebody. She was told, don't cry about it or I'll give you something to cry about. And I'm not trying to use that as a trigger. I don't want to, I mean, just in case that is a trigger warning to anybody, that's how it was resolved back then. If there was abuse happening within a home, we didn't talk about it to outsiders. It wasn't discussed. Okay. So therefore we grew these people that kept all of their feelings inside, and bad or good, it just is how it was. Come to me, my generation, 44. Yeah, 44. Not much younger than William, right? Not much. I mean, I'm younger than my mom. Yeah, don't get me wrong. But the difference in that is that my mom fostered that positive mindset, right? My mom asked those hard questions. And if she asked a question that needed for a follow up, my mom luckily had worked through some of her stuff in her life and was able to give me the tools that I needed to feel comfortable and safe and secure and able to share how I was feeling. Okay. Kids today, they're growing up in a world where thankfully we're starting to have those discussions about mental health. We're starting to have those discussions about how it's okay to talk to somebody. We're having those hard discussions at home. We're having those hard discussions behind closed doors, and it's opened up to where generations that are you know I have clients as young as 3, and I have clients as old as me, I believe, maybe older, actually older, sorry. And my hardest client is my older, you know, a 60-year-old person who's just coming to therapy and they're like, well, you know, you just don't share these kind of things. And it's like pulling teeth and nails sometimes to get them to speak, because that comfort is not just naturally there like it is when I talk to my 12-year-old, my 10-year-old, my, my youngers that are born into a new society, which is communicating these feelings. We have open communication in school. We have mental health therapists in school. We have counselors in school. We have teachers that are, becoming more aware, and um, it's something that we are seeing more and more of, which to me is phenomenal. And the reason I want to discuss it is because I know that is hard. I know that there's people out here that listen to what I say that are still going, but why? How can people just share that stuff? And it's because, they were not born into a situation that fostered that. I mean, when we were younger, I know the church was a good place. You had elders in church or people in church. You had youth groups and things like that, we could talk to people. That was a safe place. But still not a lot of mental health discussions. I have clients now that, they're hibernating in their room, and they're just acting out, or they're doing, things that out of the ordinary, and they're behaving in ways that concerns their parents. So they reach out and they get them that help. Um, we didn't have that before. We didn't have that before. And I want to see that change. I want to see that those hard discussions happen. And they're hard, guys. They're hard. Like, I've had hard discussions with my children that have set me back and made me go, wow, what the hell do I do now? And when I got to that point, I reached out and I tried to get them more help. And it's because I was provided that same thing. A lot of people just don't think mental health concerns, a lot of people don't think bipolar is real. Depression is real. Depression is one that people, older generations are like, you're not depressed, just get out and do something about it. It's not that easy. Not for everybody. For some it could be, but for some it's not. So how do we change that? How do we change those thought processes? How do we make it to where we're not just telling our grandchildren, you're not depressed, just get over it? Because that's not healthy. If they're telling you that they feel sad and there's something going on and they need something, even if they don't tell you, I need somebody to talk to, but they're giving you all the reasons to believe that there is a concern, it's okay. It doesn't mean that you have failed. It doesn't mean as your parents have failed. It doesn't mean anything other than there's something going on and we need to take care of it. We need to try to promote a better health or mental health situation. We are seeing more and more and more of grandparents raising grandchildren, which is why this needs to continue to be talked about. That the stigma around mental health and help dies. Like we got to make this a better situation. We've got to glove this together. We've got to make it fit and work, because children today seem to be a different structure, a different standard, they're definitely just a different era of difference, right? And they're I'm just going to say it. They're softer. They feel more. They share and express more. They are angry more. They are, and I can't say more, but they are showing it more. How about that? There's very little, very, very little, consequence offered out there. So this newer age generation is different. And so when we have parents that are older or grandparents raising children of this nature, we often run into some collision, right? And it's normally not healthy for a while until the school has reached out, or the kid has just said enough, or the kid has done something that requires such as self-harm or something that they get mental health assistance. And I don't want it to have to go that far. I don't. First of all, if you're a grandparent raising a grandchild, normally that means that there's a parent that's been, uninvolved or not able to be involved with this child. So, of course, there could be some separation anxiety, and there could be some big feelings that go with that. And it's hard. It's hard for them and it's hard for you. But you, because of the generation that you're locked into, you're like, oh, we'll just push through. We'll just push through. We'll just push through. We'll just push through. And that's great. I'm not trying to change that. But unfortunately, that's not what our kids are dealing with today. You know, and they are exposed to a lot of things that could affect them on a lot of varieties, a lot of ways. And so I want you just to kind of be aware that, hey, if they're coming or if you're asking for help or you're seeing something that concerns you, it's okay. It's okay. To ask for help is okay. Okay. Um, I think that, last week it kind of, that whole school shooting happened, and I could have came on here and talked about it, but I didn't want to, because there's so much confusion and frustration and right wing and left wing, and none of that matters to me. What matters to me is that we have a person that's struggling, and they obviously fostered and harbored onto those feelings for a long time to come back years later to do what they've done, you know? And we're seeing this, like last week, these school shootings, these mass shootings, and it's so violent, and it's sad, you know? Whoever is shooting is angry. They are lost. They are confused. They are hurt. They want to be heard. They needed help. They needed that space to have a comfort in being okay. And we have the tools out there as therapists and mental health, representatives that could help foster a different thought process and help it to where we're seeing less and less of these situations. Because I'm just going to say it. It's not a gun issue. It's not. Because if somebody wants to get a gun, they will by all costs get a gun. And when that happens, what do we blame then? What do we blame then? Instead of stopping right now and saying, okay, there's a problem. I hate the fact that we need to put metal detectors in every entrance of the schools. I truly do. That's not what I want my grandchildren to have to go to school with. I don't want them to have to worry and have fear and think about what could be if some angry student from years ago walks into that building. But I do wish that the person that was behind that shooting would have felt comfortable and would have been okay talking about their mental health. I do. I do wish that they would have had somebody to share what they were feeling. I do wish that they would have had some sort of support system that they connected with. And it's sad that they felt that they needed to hold that in. We don't know their circumstances. We don't know how they were raised. We don't know what happened in their life. We don't know what happened in that school. We don't know what happened with a teacher. We do not know. But if we are talking about mental health and we are focusing on making things easier for people, making life easier, making a support system easier, then why are we not doing it more? Why are we not seeing more people reach out for services? Again, I'm booked. I have a full caseload and I love it. But I know therapists that are waiting for clients too. And I know that there are people at the grocery store, at church, at work, at the casino, wherever you go, there is probably somebody saying, I'm fine, I'm good. When in deep down inside, if they sit down and said, I'm not okay and I need help, would feel better. Okay. Again, I am not saying that you can't go to your church and talk to your preacher. I'm not saying that there's not other advocacies. There, there's life coaches, there's therapy, licensed LPCs like me, there's hospitals, there's psychiatrists, there's all kinds of things. There's numbers that you can call, and there's resources out there. You do not have to just compromise and be dealing with these things on your own. There's opportunity out there for help, and there's opportunity for you to think about mental health, and just think about the way that you view it. Think about your past and how it helped you form your thoughts about mental health today. um like I said before, William was I told him one night that I want to be a therapist. He's like, that's stupid. well you're that's stupid. But he didn't like, he didn't discredit me, he didn't take away from me. And with time, we were having very good intellectual conversations, and we were having serious breakdowns of, but this is what I'm seeing, and this is what's going on. And I mean, the last thing that a therapist does is want to diagnose their family, their loved ones, or anybody around. But I was like, man, I don't know, man. You've been through some things in life, and you're probably holding back a lot, and that's all I'm gonna say. And we went on. But as he's seen me grow and foster this love for my job even more and more every day, he is such a supporter now. He can hear things as he's driving down the road and listening to YouTube. He's like, "Man, Diane," and I'm like, I know." He's like, "That's not good." I know. And he's noticing what I've been saying. And is he 100% sold? Is he gonna like go get a therapist tomorrow? No, probably not. Probably not. But I think if something happened and I was no longer here, I think he would have somebody that he could speak with. I think he would find somebody that he could share his thoughts with, because he has become a available and open to conversation about his past and his life that he never would have been before. You know, I think that he's learned that it's okay. I think I've told him and expressed the safety that he could get just by talking to somebody if he's feeling down, or if he's feeling, like he's just not motivated to do anything, if he's feeling like he's struggling with anything. I think he's now at that point where he could possibly even reach out and get a therapist. Um, he drives a truck, so I don't know if anybody knows that, but that's what he does. That's why he's never here. And he told me one day, he's like, "Diane, I was listening to the XM one day, and there's this whole thing for therapists that work with truck drivers." And I'm like, well, of course. These guys, male or female, they're never home, rarely home. They're not able to be at the kids' sports. They're not able to be there with their spouse. They're draining all of their personal life into this job that's providing. So there's probably some struggles there, and it's okay. And I'm glad that they are hearing this on the XM. I'm glad that there are reach outs for them. I'm glad that, mental health is discussed in that era of realm of truck driving, um, because it's important. Your life changes a little when you're never home, you know, when you're pulled away from the ones that you love. It's got to be hard. So, like I said, I am going to be talking more about this because there's so much that comes in with mental health. There's so many roadblocks and things that need to be discussed. But the main one today that I want you to take away from today is I want you to sit back and think about a conversation you had when you were younger with your parent, your grandparent, your church, your youth leader, anybody that said, "Are you okay? How can I help you?" I want you to think about times, if you were sad or down and you're struggling to get up every day, but you couldn't express that. Think about why and what could have been better for you. Think about what could have helped you in that moment. Okay. So for today, I'm just going to say, keep your eyes out always be a person that somebody can lean on. And if you feel that you cannot be a person that somebody can lean on because of, conflict or whatever, be okay providing resources to others. So for now, that's all I have, but I will be back this weekend. I am changing the dates a little bit on recording just because of my schedule and how busy it is. So you're going to see me a couple times a week still. It's just going to be fluctuating on, the days are moving. We're making a shift. So for now, guys, I just want to thank you so much for listening. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and have a great week. Bye.